Elden Ring's latest DLC, or what I like to call an expansion, has been review bombed, and the game's been facing a ton of criticism on just how hard it is. Now, just a few days ago, the Steam reviews for this game were mixed, but since then, it does look like the reviews have come around to a mostly positive score. So what's going on here? Is this game really as hard as people are making it out to be, or is this just people overreacting? In this video, we're going to be getting to the bottom of this topic and talking a little bit more about the difficulty of the game and what people's main complaints are, and why I personally think the game is just fine as it is. As of recording this video, Shadow of the Erdtree has been out for a little over a week now, and it's just now gotten to the point where the review scores for the game, or the DLC, has finally hit a mostly positive score. I want to say that it only took about 24 hours of the DLC being out for those review scores to turn mixed and people started throwing out their complaints. Now, concerning the number of negative reviews that the game was having, a lot of them looked like they were just people that were dealing with performance issues rather than people complaining about how hard the game was. Now, of course, there were people that were complaining and leaving negative reviews, trying to review bomb the game because they thought it was too hard, but it doesn't look like all of them were from people just having issues or struggling with the game. And I think what's really funny is that when I look back at when Elden Ring originally came out a couple of years ago, I think the game briefly had the same problem where it came out, and for a moment in time there were a lot of mixed or negative reviews for the game because people were, complaining that the game was too hard, or some people were actually even complaining that the game was too easy.
What?
So you had a lot of different people reacting to the game itself, but over time people realized that the game was incredible. And I think for the most part, this is probably something we're gonna experience again. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why, if you look at the Steam reviews for Elden Ring right now, again, it's been bumped back up to mostly positive. This is mainly because I think a lot of the performance issues were already addressed. And then also I think a lot of people that were originally struggling with the game probably have had more time to play the game now, and they're kind of starting to realize like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was. Now, just to tell you guys a little story real quick, I want to say that when I originally purchased Elden Ring, I actually bought the game and refunded it probably, I think it was 3 times. So I bought the game, refunded it, bought the game, refunded it, bought the game, and then I finally stuck with it. And this is because, this is, aside from Dark Souls 2, which I only played that game with my friend who pretty much killed all the bosses for me, I really didn't have a lot of experience with a Souls-like game. And I'll be the first one to admit that, yeah, I struggled with this game and I got really pissed off. That's why I refunded the game so many times. But I kept telling myself like, man, just give it another shot, right? And I'm really glad that I stuck with this game because honestly, I think Elden Ring is probably one of the best games I've ever played in my entire lifetime. And I don't think we're gonna see many other games like this in the future. And the DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, is no exception to this. It's just as good as Elden Ring, the base game is. And it already has beaten out the Witcher 3's Blood and Wine DLC. So yeah, it's just more of an amazing game, and yeah, people are dealing with this game in different ways and they're venting their frustrations, and I think a lot of people are doing that in the form of leaving bad reviews, saying the game's too hard. And one of the things that I feel like people are overlooking or just not paying attention to is the DLC is kind of a mid to late game kind of experience. It's more tuned to those players that have, beaten the main game, or someone that has just recently played the game, but they've, got a pretty decently built character and they're ready to jump into something new. So I think a lot of people probably haven't played Elden Ring in a long time, and then they, got back into the game, dusted off their old character, jumped into the DLC, and then they're just getting raffle stuff. But again, it looks like players are starting to kind of walk back their negative reviews because yeah, the game's getting a lot of really positive reviews now, and I think that's because people are they're getting more time in the DLC, they're learning the fights, and they're adapting to what they have to do to deal with these bosses. So I think that is something that we're going to see kind of play out, is the longer this is out, the more people are going to get used to it, calm down, have their expectations tempered, and people are going to, at the end of the day, say this is a really awesome game. And I think we're going to see a lot of people change their opinion and, go from saying that, oh, the DLC is too hard to, no, this is actually really good. And that's kind of where I'm at. Granted, I really haven't spent a lot of time in the DLC. I did make a couple of videos on it so far, but I ended up going back and making a new character and just kind of going back to the drawing board as far as what build and playstyle that I wanted to do. So if you guys are curious, I'm actually going with like a knight build where I've got a great sword and a shield, but I'm not I'm not copying the sweaty Asmon build that everyone's saying is like a cheap way to play the game, which is completely valid. I think that is totally, if you want to play the game that way, go right ahead, but I just kind of want to go with more of like a poise, stance breaking style gameplay, so that's what I'm doing right now. But I will say, before I swapped characters and started a new one, I did spend a little bit of time in the DLC and tried a couple of bosses and just did a little bit of exploring, and yeah, I kind of realized like, holy crap, stuff hits really hard, and I was not really expecting it. But in my opinion, it kind of felt like how the original Elden Ring played out when you were, a brand new fresh character. The characters in Limgrave would like one or two shot you. It's kind of the same thing now. And this all kind of just falls back to difficulty or doing something that's really hard. I think at the end of the day, a lot of people are kind of forgetting about this, but video games are all about experiences and creating memories, in my opinion. And when you're just playing something that doesn't really evoke a strong emotion out of you, positive or negative, you kind of forget about it. And one thing that I really like about Elden Ring or Dark Souls games in general is that I kind of get the exact same feeling that I get when I'm defeating a mythic boss in World of Warcraft, except that the whole experience just happens way faster. In World of Warcraft, if you're fighting a rather hard mythic boss, your raid team can spend like days or even weeks trying to defeat a certain boss, and then once you actually get that boss down, you're just flooded with this huge rush of emotions and relief and all this other good stuff, and it's great. It's a really good feeling, and this game definitely gives me those kind of emotions and feelings as well. And honestly, I think that's probably one of the main reasons why I think Elden Ring is such an amazing game. And one last thing I want to leave everybody here with is that this is a really good opportunity for me to just, tell those people that if you're someone that is struggling with this game and you're having a hard time, I just gotta say,
just get good.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys could do me a huge favor, and if you enjoyed this one, please let me know by subscribing to my channel and leaving a like on this video. I'm still Solo, and I'll see you guys in the next one.